Hey book readers. I have just finished House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas, book 3 in the Crescent City series, and these are my comprehensive thoughts and reactions. This video will have spoilers. If you have not read this, do not watch this unless you want to be spoiled. I have a spoiler-free thoughts and reactions video on my page that you can jump back and find, but this one is spoilery. I'm going to talk about everything I read about, I'm going to talk about how I felt about all of it, and I'm going to give you my thoughts about what I think is going to come. This is your official spoiler warning so that nothing is spoiled for you. Go ahead and click away if you haven't read this book yet. The anticipation for this book was unreal. We have been waiting for 2 years for the completion of this story. I cannot even explain my anticipation and my expectations. They were so high, very, very, very high. So what we know so far, as of now, this is the last Crescent City contracted book by Sarah J Maas. There are no other official contracts for additional books that have been announced. But she has said to us, there will be more to the story. She has kind of tiptoed around. There will be a 4th book that will coordinate with the 4th house. So we have House of Earth and Blood, House of Sky and Breath, House of Flame and Shadow. She's implying she's going to do House of Many Waters as its own book. But we have no official information about that, no official release date. She has basically hinted in her multiple interviews since this released that it's going to be a while. It's in the lineup, but it's going to be a while because she's working on ACOTAR. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I cannot wait for more ACOTAR. This book gave us a good, nice and tidy, cleaned up ending so that we aren't going to be on a cliffhanger for years to come for the next story. I have many thoughts, okay? I have mixed reactions. Overall, I loved it. I continued the trend of loving every book Sarah J Maas has written. I would, in the end, give this a rating of 4.5 stars. Very, very, very good. It was very good. I loved it. Just a few things that stick out to me that I just can't quite give it the 5-star, and I will detail those for you. As always, these are just my personal opinions, and how I feel about books is that every book is not written for every reader, and that something might not be for you, and that's okay if you don't like it, if you give it a low star rating, if you DNF, that's perfectly fine, but it might be for someone else, and it might be a 5-star for somebody else, and I believe that that's perfectly fine. I want you to read for joy, read what you like. I loved this book. I gave it a 4.5 stars. Don't put this down just because you heard somebody didn't like it, and don't count it out just because you heard somebody didn't like it. I loved it, and it had flaws, as any book. I'll tell you my pros and cons from this book, things that I liked, things that I didn't like. Leave your comments about if you agree, disagree, what you thought. I would love to hear them all. So this picks up right where book 2 left off. Bryce is in Prithian and our favorite dudes are in the dungeons. I don't always love to say things I didn't like about a book because I don't want it to turn you away from reading it, and I don't want it to influence how you felt about it. Whatever feelings you felt after you read it should be what you keep. Don't let other people influence you how you should feel about the story. My first unmet expectation was the crossover into ACOTAR. I was so disappointed that we didn't get more. I really wanted all of the characters. I did not want just Nesta and Azriel. I'm so sorry. I love them both, but I really was hoping for more. I thought it was going to be way different. And that's fine, but my expectations were she was going to interact with everybody, they were going to be partners, they were going to help her get her world back from the bad guys, and they were going to be co-conspirators, and it was going to be fine and dandy because these are my favorite people. When we only got 2 of the characters and they were enemies for most of it, I was a little disappointed, to be honest, but it was still exciting to see them in that world and to learn that it's connected and that we could see them together again. And I liked how it ended, where they aren't fully enemies, that they were resolved, but I did not want them to be enemies in the crossover, and I wanted Rhys-Sand. I really did. I wanted Rhys, and I wanted them to be friends. So I enjoyed getting to fight another Middengard worm. I loved Nesta and Bryce's companionship, how they are very similar. So many details about the 2 of them that are interesting when you think about comparing them. I enjoyed reading about. So I'll go back and forth with something I didn't love and something I did love, just so I can balance it out because that's how I roll. A little bit of unmet expectations for the ACOTAR crossover. Then I loved the entire plot and how everything played out. Everything she wrote made sense. Even if I didn't love how everything was presented, I understood it all. I was like, okay, yep, this is why she has to do it like that. Yep, this makes sense. It was very realistic. It felt real. It felt genuine, and loved the plot from beginning to end. Something I didn't love, it was a little bit lengthy at times. A couple of the subplots maybe could have been fleshed out a little bit. I understood why everything was the length that it was, because there were so many things she had to get through. Maybe just clip it out a little bit. Like, a few things kind of dragged a tiny bit. As far as the peaks and the anticipation and the climaxes, I felt like we had quite a bit of straightaways, plateaus to building up to the climaxes instead of like a regular Sarah J Maas book. And something I love, Sarah has an absolutely masterful ability to write complex stories with such an obscene amount of characters while making me love every single one of those characters and not leaving me behind with the details of the story. I really honestly don't know how she does it. So much information, so many characters, so many complications and complexities, but I could follow along, and I love that. I love that about her writing. I think it's one of the reasons that I love her writing so much, is because I have yet to find an author who has written so many characters in one story that I love all of them, that I am deeply concerned for all of the welfare of every single member, and all of their stories are interesting. It's very complicated. It's a very real talent. So I find that to be magic. Something I didn't love, for some reason, it may have been my mood while I was reading, I'm not exactly sure. It just did not have the gravitational pull that every other Sarah J Maas book had for me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the story and the characters and the nature of how it had to be presented, or if it was a me thing, if it was like my mood at the time or something, but I didn't have the gravitational pull like I had, especially with ACOTAR. I was like, this is my world, you know, like I am here now and I will not be returning. Thank you. I wanted to read it and I wanted to know what would happen, but I was okay if it took me a couple weeks. I did not have the like take me off my gravitational axis that the other stories had. So I'm not really sure. I noted that and I have nothing else beyond that to say about it. I thought that there were beautiful conclusions to all of the storylines. No like cliffhangers leaving us for years. Beautiful closure. Obviously still some curiosities that I'm interested to know about when the time comes, but really good conclusions all around. Something I really did not like. I'm feeling highly opinionated. I hated the part where Rune shot Lydia. I thought that was highly unnecessary. Very unnecessary. I was like, no. I don't want him to do that. That messes with me. I did not like it. I really hated it. I thought it didn't need to be done. I thought many other things could have happened where it didn't have to be that. And it really didn't flesh out to be necessary. And it was just kind of like swept under the rug after it happened. And I thought that was really weird. Like, added in conflict for no reason. Okay, we get it. You would rather her survive than yourself. But I don't know. That just felt very twisted and I did not like that. Did not like that at all. I really preferred the way she wrote the spice in this book compared to book 2. I also liked book 1. Obviously, it's very little. There was only one scene, very easily skipped. Book 2, just so much to me, a little bit much for my personal preferences and for the way the story went. I don't love when books in a series have mismatched balances of spice. When the first book has 1 chapter and the second book has like 8 chapters, it does not make sense to me. And it felt like spice for spice's sake, which I'm not a fan of. But this one I thought was well done. It was minimal. It made sense for the story. So much preferred for me in this book than in book 2. Another thing that I didn't love for some reason, and I cannot think of exactly what I wanted instead, but when Hunt and Baxian and Rune were in the dungeons, it just was a little off to me. I was expecting something different, and I can't even tell you what it was, but I just kind of felt like, okay, what are we doing in the dungeons? I don't know. Something about the dungeons didn't hit me like I thought it would. I also really didn't like that she made Baxian chewing off Rune's hand be for no reason. Like, I understand she wants like the shock value in a plot and like a plot twist, but I would rather it have been for a reason. Like, it had purpose and they were escaping and then the hysteria came in or something. Not right then. It had no meaning. That was a bummer. And then I really didn't feel like it ever mattered again. Like, that was another little bit randomly thrown in thing that didn't make sense to me. There were like things that were put in that didn't matter and didn't need to be put in and didn't play a role down the line. A lot of times with the Sarah J Maas book, there will be something and I don't understand it, but then it shows up again later and I'm like, oh, okay. But a few things where that didn't happen. And so I was like, what is this for? I also really highly appreciate and value the complexity and the detail of this world and universe that she created. I do not take for granted the ability that she has to create such a world. I think it is a very unique talent that not many authors can do. I did not love very shocking things or very important things were just told to us in long monologues of a character. I was surprised by that. I don't feel like that really has happened much before in her other books. There's always crazy ways things are found out, or like ways history is presented, or like parts of the story are told without it just being like, here's this hologram of Celine and she tells you everything ever. Or here's Jessica talking to Ethan for ever and ever and ever about everything we always wondered, and then all of a sudden it's just answered, and I was like, oh wow, I know everything now about Jessica that I wondered, and it just was all told to me in a paragraph. That was surprising. I didn't expect that, probably just because in her other books it is not typically presented in that way, so I was surprised by that. At the same time, I get it, because it's an 800 something page book, like something had to be succinct somewhere, so I understand, I get it. I know why she had to do it like that. One of my only other negative thoughts was it was a tiny bit predictable and or slash a bit of a bummer that it was like the same ending plot as ACOTAR of like, right now Rhysand's gotta die. Okay, now Bryce is gonna die. Oh wait, nope, neither of them actually die. There's a way for them to come back. I like it. Like, I get it. It was a little bit of a bummer, but at the same time, I really don't care because I really loved both of the endings anyway, so why fix something that's not broken? And it was still good, but I was like, she's not gonna die. You know, I knew she wasn't gonna die. But there's also some comfort in predictability, so it's fine with me. When I have read so many from an author and have loved so many, it's very easy for me to be biased and like, it's okay that there were some things I didn't like because I still loved everything else, and I love all her other stories. So definitely a little bit of that going on here. Subjectivity, some reader bias of loving Sarah J Maas. So overall, I really enjoyed it. The biggest reason that I didn't give it 5 stars was simply because of the unmet expectations with the ACOTAR crossover. Everything else, I really probably could have still given it 5 stars, but just missed the mark for me enough to make it 4.5 stars. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you agree with some of the things I said, if you thought of different things while you were reading, or if you disagree, let me know what you think. Subscribe if you want to talk more books, because we all know books make life better.